Well, what you can do is you can set it up where you put your meat in, you put your meat in the water, and you put the machine in, and you're at work. Put your meat in the water. I heard that giggle. But you can be at work or whatever and go, oh shit, I need to start dinner, and then you can get it activated, which is pretty cool too.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode 1. The first episode 1, that's right, of...
Oh shit, we better start over. We already fucked it.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, anyways, this is Press X to Podcast. It's the podcast from your friends at COGconnected. My name's Paul Sullivan. I'm going to be your host for this flight through a journey of magic and video games and culture and stuff like that. Alongside me,
hold up. People are coming here for culture? Oh no, they're in the wrong place.
You might get a sense of what's not culture if you stick around.
Sure, there you go.
That lovely voice that you're hearing right there, that's Sean Petraschuk.
Hi!
And alongside us, we've also got Mr. Trevor Houston.
Hello, hello.
So what's up, dudes?
Life. Life is up. I played some games this weekend.
You played games?
I did. I'm actually I'm really close to getting my 50 for 50 on Assassin's Creed Origins. So I'm at 40.
50 achievements. Wow.
I'm at 49, and I just basically now just need to slog through the leftovers. It's basically completing every location. So it's like find every treasure, kill every bad guy, all that sort of stuff. I've done all the hard stuff. So now it's just the tedious stuff, but I'm so determined to do it. I have to make it happen.
The first time I was playing Origins, I looked at the map and I zoomed out a bit and I was like, oh yeah, this game's pretty big. And then I kept zooming out and I was like, what the fuck?
It's really, really big. I mean,
it is massive.
You get into some of the more remote areas, some of the deserts and stuff. And even though they're big locations, there's only a really small handful of things to do. So it's not as bad as it looks. But that being said, I think I'm at 90 hours, give or take. And it's probably going to take me, I figure I got another 5 to 6 to kind of work through those last locations. But I've got really badass, fast chocobo, camel thing from the whole Final Fantasy crossover. So, he helps me get places fast. I mean, maybe I'll get it done in 4 hours. Who knows? But I'm getting there. I'm super close.
Well, when we get to our pile of shame, that game I think will be at the top of my list. I've only just started the game, and every time I want to go back, I'm like, no, I need to dedicate at least 20 hours into this thing if I'm going to give it any justice. So it's right there on my stack on that dirty pile of shame.
I don't want to give anything away just yet, but when we do get to the pile of shame, I can't see either one of you at the moment, but I'm absolutely sure that your jaws are going to hit your desks and you'll be like, you're joking, right? So yeah, that'll be fun.
I'm actually sitting on top of my pile of shame right now.
Almost hitting the ceiling.
I'm actually in my neighbor's place. I'm upstairs.
Your neighbor is your pile of shame?
Well, I'm sitting on top of the pile, and thus I've gone through the ceiling.
Wow. Oh, I see. For a second there, I was really confused. I had no idea what exactly you were talking about, but now I get it.
There you go. I knew you'd get there.
Sometimes I'm a little slow on the uptake. It takes me a second to catch up.
So what do you guys say? Why don't we go through some of the news from this week?
Sure. What happened this week?
We should have a soundbite for the news. The news.
And
I think that's it. I think we got it.
My attempt.
Is that our official soundbite from now on? The news. The news.
This is going to be accompanied by the Sheba Shuffle.
Right.
We have the worst sound bites, guys. I think we're going to have to step up our game.
Listen, we have a limited budget.
Or none.
We do the best we can.
Or none. All right, Paul, what happened this week?
Well, it was a surprisingly busy week, despite being, the first of the year. we found out that the Switch is actually the fastest selling console in the US ever.
Isn't that insane? I mean,
that is impressive.
Can we not just even stop for a second and just appreciate at one point, anybody who's been gaming for a long amount of time, who went through the last generation with the Wii U, pretty much everybody went, you know what? I think Nintendo really screwed the pooch here. And I think they're done for home consoles. They've got the DS. That's great for them. But home consoles, they're done. I mean, there was all that chatter about they just need to sell off their franchises or license their franchises and go about business that way. And then they drop the Switch, and this is where they're at. I mean, good on them. Talk about turning the ship around.
They've quickly made us forget about the Wii U. Like it's incredible, and they got it right. Like Nintendo got it right this time. And I mean, what's not to love? The portability, the multi-touch screen, the controllers, how it supports SD cards. Like it's, I love my Switch. And look at the games. What do we get? Two of our top three games were Switch games.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. It's been a great year for Nintendo.
I mean, there are things about the Switch that bug me, but I definitely did not expect myself to go into 2018 saying or picking a Switch title or a game that's on multiple platforms, picking the Switch version.
Yeah. And, I think, too, one of the cool things about it is that because so many people sidestepped on the Wii U, there was a ton of really good games that came out of that generation that basically people ignored. People didn't play them at all. And now we're going to start, I'm sure we're going to see those titles start to navigate their way onto the Switch for a second life, so to speak. So there's a lot of great games that we know are on the way that are older. And I mean, obviously there's the chatter about the games that are coming. I mean, whether or not we see a Metroid this year, who knows? I mean, obviously that's doubtful, but I do believe there is a Nintendo Direct coming up in a few days. So I imagine they're going to drop some pretty big bombs. It's a 2-hour Direct, which is really long for Direct. Direct is usually like 30 odd minutes, 45 minutes at best, but 2 hours long. So there's a lot of news on the way.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, for those who haven't read the news, since the launch 10 months ago, the Switch has sold 4.8 million units.
That's nothing. 4.8 million.
I was actually kind of surprised it was that low as the best selling of all time. I would have thought the PS2, PS4 would have been higher.
Well, I mean, it's obviously not counting total sales. I think what it is it not
that's right.
This amount of time. So for 10 months, because it came out in March, right? So we're looking at 9 months of sales and 4.8 million units, which, I mean, that is pretty frigging impressive. I mean, like with the 360, like you say, or the PS2 or whatever else, I mean, it takes time for them to gather steam, I guess. I mean, obviously, the usual Nintendo problem of hey, we know you all want this, but we're not actually going to supply it for you. They definitely didn't screw the pooch this time around with that. So, I mean, there's more than enough units out there for people to purchase.
Yeah, I guess this is just the US as well. So this is not worldwide sales, just in the States.
Well, I mean, still though, too. I mean, I guess, yeah, like you say, that's true. It's only that 4.8 million is only in the US. I mean, God, if they did that in the US alone, can you imagine what their worldwide is like? I mean, they've made some serious bank.
Yeah, it's got to be crazy.
You'd think it would be at least double, at least.
I would say even more than that. Oh man, double. I mean, getting up into the 10 million range, I would say definitely way more than that. Way more than that. I don't know. That's it. Who knows? I mean, obviously, that sort of information is probably going to come around eventually. But the bottom line is like as a start out the gate. I mean, at even when it was first announced, a lot of people just kind of, well, no, Nintendo's going to try again, but they're not going to get there. This is probably a lot of people are eating humble pie. A lot of people are probably surprised, but pleasantly surprised, right? I mean, it's become a machine that I play a lot. I mean, I'd love to be able to take it out on the road. I take it actually, out last night, bring it along. I have the kid with me, and if there's one thing I want my kid to shut up when I'm out and with other adults. I'm like, kid, shut up, and I hand him the Switch because it's easy, and it kept him quiet for like 5 hours. It's perfect.
Yeah, and there's no sign that it's gonna that 2018 will be a rough year. Like, there's really there's no sort of red flags. Like you could say that for VR, for instance, there's red flags, but you really can't say that for the Switch. Like there's no reason to believe it's not going to be another really strong year for Nintendo and the Switch. Like, even without 4K capabilities and, it not capping out at 1080p on TV, on your TV set, even it not doing all that, it doesn't matter. It's still going to do well.
Do you think people care? Do you think people care?
I don't think they do. No, I don't. Not Switch fans.
I mean, I can tell you right now, I could give a shit if Mario's in 1080. It's a fun game to play. Who cares?
Yeah, I don't care.
And it's a damn good looking 1080 game.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I mean, the bottom line is I don't think there would be much taken away if it wasn't, because it's just good. It's classic Nintendo fun. I mean, obviously, there's a reason it was number one on our game of the year.
Right.
So I mean, graphics matter. We all know that. But I mean, gameplay over graphics is kind of a thing that most people, I would say, probably agree with. Like, I mean, it's pretty, but if the gameplay sucks, who cares? And Nintendo nails gameplay, at least with their stuff. And like you said, I'm pretty sure we actually chatted about it over the last podcast, is, games that are 3 years old or 4 years old that, we've already seen them on the PlayStation. We've already seen them on the Xbox. They're kind of getting a second life on the Switch now. And because of that portability, because of that, cost me $5 and I take it wherever I go. I mean, games are selling way better on that platform than they did originally, right?
Doom on the road is pretty rad. It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
It's incredible they got it to work in any capacity. And I mean, it looks not as good, but I mean, it works.
Yeah. And not definitely far from perfect, but man, it's still there. It's still tight.
Well, I mean, and I think people are a little more forgiving in that aspect where they go, okay, if I'm picking this thing up and I'm taking it with me, they're not expecting the same level of quality that they're going to get from their brick size, or whatever size console that they've got plugged in at home to their TV. I mean, obviously it's not the same sort of thing. So there's going to be give and take. So no one's going to be like, it's bullshit. Doom doesn't look as good on the Switch as it does on my Xbox One. Well, no shit. Right? No one cares. And I mean, from the sounds of it, I mean, I don't know if you guys were following the news this week too. There are some rumors of some of the stuff that's coming in the firmware update. So I imagine we'll probably hear more about that actually on the Nintendo Direct, but they're making steady improvements. I mean, it looks like we've got cloud storage on the way. What do we got here? Console installed party chat. So none of that. You remember that weird thing that they had with when Splatoon 2 came out, where you got to hook your headphones up to your phone?
Oh yeah,
all that weird shit.
Goofy.
Yeah, apparently that's going to be on its way out. New themes. What else? There was something else here in the rumor list. But yeah, cloud storage, party chat. Oh, and a folder system, so you can organize your games into folders. You're like, oh, this is my RPG folder. Just some fun ways to be able to kind of personalize what you're doing. But I mean, it's a steady stream of improvements and a steady stream of more games. Hopefully, I mean,
right.
I mean, my inbox is just cluttered on the regular with, oh, look, another indie game and another, or an indie studio that's like, oh, we've already published these 14 games on this platform, and now we're putting all of them on the Switch,
Right.
I'll take it.
Right.
What's
if you
amazing
don't have a Switch, buy one.
Yeah.
Just do it.
And what's amazing is Nintendo seems like they're actually listening to what people want out of the Switch. Like, what updates do they want? Traditionally, Nintendo's not listening to any of that. They don't care. They're just going to put out their games and do their thing. But
I don't know.
Cloud storage is a big thing people want, and they're doing it.
Do you think it's a don't care, or just like a general obliviousness? I mean, you'd think, they've been in business long enough that you think that they understand their consumer. But I mean, over the years, we've just seen some really odd decisions out of them. I don't know. Do you think they've caught on, or maybe like you say, they're truly just, they're out there and they're reading the articles and they're listening to what their audience wants for once?
Honestly, I think the Wii U probably scared them pretty badly, because it just didn't perform. And, they took a big risk and they thought they were doing what was right. And turns out they should have listened to the consumer. And, maybe they're trying that out and seeing how that goes this time around.
Well, I mean, the sad fact is, the Wii U is probably a strong thumbs down from Shiggy in the long run. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yep.
It just didn't do what they wanted it to do. So, I mean, he's back to all smiles, all teeth, and that very enthusiastic thumbs up that he does, with the Switch. And it's well earned. I mean, I'm glad to see them kind of come out of the mire and shut up a lot of people who, have an attitude about Nintendo that they don't belong. Obviously they do. They make great experiences. We all know this. And I mean, to see them back in the spotlight and excelling, I mean, I'm happy about it. I'm glad to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of companies that need to put up or shut up and come out with some first party titles, there was some Microsoft news this week, or a leak.
Yeah, from a dude on Reset Era, which is basically the GAF. Minus, I can't remember. I can't remember why GAF shut down. Was it racists or sexists or something? It was an ugly thing. There was an ugly thing that happened, and someone did an ugly thing, and so Reset Era is the new GAF. But a user on there, we don't know who this guy is apart from his username. I don't know how.
We've got
trusty.
the text up on. We've got the text up on COGconnected, and
it looks legitimate. Like I know it looks legitimate, and it seems as though the media is giving it credibility.
Well, I mean, you sometimes you just take the story and run with it. I mean, reading over what the guy actually wrote, I'm not sure if English is his first language. It's a little all over the place.
It's a little weird.
It's a little
weird.
But I'm kind of curious. There's that part of me that thinks that he was doing it to be obtuse, like on purpose. He's just like, I'm going to screw with people. Or he's like, look, I can't say anything outright because I don't want the lawyers to come after me. So he just kind of danced around things. But he did kind of expose some things that I would say are expected, but a couple of surprises that people might have been like, whoa, like I thought that was over and done with.
I mean, can you imagine a new MechAssault game or a new Perfect Dark game? Like, I think it would be incredible. Like, MechAssault just brings me back to how old's MechAssault? 15, 16 years old? Like it was.
Was that one of like the OG, like when they first announced Xbox Live? Was there not a MechAssault game that was like that launched right with Xbox Live? Because I played the shit out of whatever that was MechAssault, was it not?
That was the
right.
one.
It was the original.
Oh my god!
Game.
And I mean, it's funny because that was a time where a lot of us were for the first time getting introduced to this idea of multiplayer that wasn't a LAN. Like you weren't hooked up all in the same room, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
It was awesome.
I mean,
it was awesome.
I sucked as much then as I suck now, but I had so much fun, right?
Right. And mech games have come so far since then, and I've basically walked away from mech games. But a new MechAssault for the Xbox One X, that would get me back into mech games.
You know what would get me back into just multiplayer period is if they got their shit together and gave me an updated Crimson Skies. That I would play. I don't know if I could get back into MechAssault, but Crimson Skies is a game that I can get down with.
Well, you might be disappointed on the Crimson Skies front, as I quote, "I doubt I get anything for Conquer, Banjo, or Crimson Skies in the foreseeable future." Yeah,
I know, I saw it, but a guy can hope, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
But go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah, what interested me most in what was written there is that he would love to have a really high player count for Xbox's biggest franchise, which made me think Halo PUBG ripoff?
Obviously Battle Royale is like, it's the flavor of the month. And I was actually looking at news today, and there's a ton of games that are aping this, that are mimicking this, which is fine. If anything, we get to look forward to more complaining from Bluehole, from the PUBG guys about everybody stealing their game. But it's just like, look, dude, every game is a goddamn theft of an idea of another game.
Right.
I mean, it's not like, I don't know. I mean, kind of reading some of the news of him complaining about that just kind of made me chuckle. And it's just like, dude, you know, you've got a lot to learn, you know.
It's a little hard to feel bad for him when, you know, they have the highest concurrent player count in Steam history.
That's insane. Right. That's so crazy. And I mean, I know we have a little talk about in terms of PUBG as well, but yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe like there is the highlight on really high player count for Xbox's biggest franchise. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, if it's biggest franchise, it has to be Halo. It has to be Halo.
Yeah, it absolutely.
But I mean, let's put it this way: rip off or not. I mean, would you play a Halo Battle Royale? I mean, probably. Actually, yeah, that sounds pretty freaking cool. Right?
Yeah, of course. Even if it was a Call of Duty battle, like really, I would try it all.
Well, you know, it's funny. Like again, looking over this as well. I mean, there's some things that were a little more obvious in their mentioning, like Sea of Thieves and Crackdown 3 beta on the way. That didn't surprise me.
That's non-news,
but exactly right. Like that was kind of some of the more obvious news in this leak. But how about the idea of revisiting Albion, which basically means Fable? And I like how he put a UK studio should do it. Like, did we not think that Fable was completely dead?
I mean, I thought it was dead for sure. But I mean, even after Fable 2, it was kind of like the series was on a downturn. So, I mean, they could bring it back.
Yeah, do it right, hype it up the right way, and if it's the right studio, it'll get fans back.
Well, I mean, it's funny that they're noticing they're like I say, they're stating a UK studio should do this. Well, Lionhead's long closed; they're gone. Are we going to see a resurgence of that studio somehow, or some of those people? Are they bringing back some of the original, the original people? I mean, I'm surprised that rumor specifically didn't get latched onto and people weren't losing their minds over it. Because to me, that's probably the biggest news out of this leak.
Well, the only real UK studio Microsoft has right now is Rare, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess what Rare's going to wrap up on. They're doing Crackdown, are they not?
No, Sea of Thieves.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, Sea of Thieves. Yeah. That's what happens when, don't drink in podcast, okay?
Or but do in moderation.
Right, exactly. No, you're right. Sorry, Sea of Thieves. So they're wrapping that up like next project. But even if that's the thing, I mean, we're looking another 5-6 years down the road before we would see it. So, I mean, is that even news at this point? I would think that if there's a leak that is throwing that rumor out into the wind, it's a little further along than that. It's got to be kind of, in the works already.
It could be, and we might see something at E3 on that. I mean, you have to believe Xbox is going to want to inundate us with games at E3. They're going to want to hit us with some exclusives. They know everyone is starving for Xbox exclusives. They're going to have to hammer us with games at E3, and maybe Fable's on the docket. Like,
I would say it almost has to, in a sense, because you can hammer us with exclusives, but the problem is what we're seeing a lot of is, like one of the rumors is Forza with the rising sun on the horizon. So Forza Horizon in Japan, but it's the fourth Forza Horizon game, It's nothing new. It's nothing we haven't seen before, and not to say there might not be improvements, but it's the same thing like with Forza Motorsport, right? I mean, we're at the 7th game. You're kind of getting to the point of your, what do you want to call it? Like your end of life when it comes to new ideas. Everybody knows what they're getting with Forza.
Right.
And they're like, okay, it's going to be pretty and it's going to be Forza. And it's the same thing with a couple minor tweaks. They're getting to that end of life with a lot of these games, right? If they don't give us something new.
Yeah, it's going to have to be more than Halo. It's going to have to be more. It's going to have to be more than Forza. But if they hit us, if this rumor is true, if they do hit us with, say, a new Mech Assault, a new Perfect Dark, a new Fable, then I think that will excite Xbox fans.
Sure. I mean, those are known franchises, but they're franchises that we haven't seen in a while. So I would think that the excitement for stuff like that would definitely be like pretty high.
We shall see.
We shall see indeed. Speaking of PUBG, which we just mentioned a few moments ago, Cliffy B is not too happy. And Cliffy B is blaming PUBG for Lawbreakers' failure.
Is it Cliffy or I was looking, I was following a lot of this on Twitter, and you're getting a lot of people have opinions on Cliffy. And it's basically he's a conceited piece of shit. I mean, people don't like him. I've met Cliff once. He seemed like a nice enough guy. Like, know, didn't seem to have a chip on his shoulder. But the quote that where kind of this blame is really being thrown is from the Nexon. What does it say here? The Nexon financial executive. You know, the guy in charge of the money with Shiro. I'm going to butcher this. Umera, I suppose. But then again, I mean, he's probably not saying this without talking to Cliff first. But yeah, they're blaming PUBG for the fact that Lawbreakers failed,
and it's so ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. Like, I mean, if you want to like think about when the game was released. It was released in the summer, in August. There was zero buzz. Nobody was really talking about Lawbreakers, and the releasing, you know, that kind of a game in a saturated market. You know what I mean? You've already got, you got Overwatch, you got Call of Duty, Battleborn, like the list goes on and on and on. It's despite the relatively smooth betas and the pretty trailers, I just think it was released in bad timing and in a saturated market.
And it was just so generic. I mean, it played fine, but it had nothing special about it, or nothing was getting people hyped up or set it apart from the crowd, really.
Well,
people were burned out. Like they're burned out from those kind of games.
But I mean, in the same respect, though, I mean, you look at Garrett gave it a 90. He gave it a 90. I mean, and that's a solid score. I mean, I'm looking quickly. I just quickly pulled up his good and bad, and he's like, his good is inventive combat, outstanding map design, fun game modes, and full of personality. So it had something. Bad being there were some minor balancing issues. That's as easily tweaked as a patch. Unmemorable art style. Well, you're kind of fucked. I mean, if you didn't make it worth looking at, you didn't make it worth looking at. Lacks a ranked play option. Also something that's patchable. So, they had chances to, like say, drop a couple patches to really improve what the experience was on. But it sounds like it was actually pretty good. It just no one cared. No one actually cared about it. So, I mean, I'm kind of curious if, like, did they not care about the game, or do people just really hate Cliff that much?
It sounds like the art style was just crippling. I mean, we're in a Tinder world where you can just swipe and go to the next thing, and there's so much stuff on Steam. You don't have to play Lawbreakers if you don't like how it looks. So that first impression is everything.
And you look at
I heard people didn't really identify with any of the characters. I heard that was one of the complaints too, that people just didn't really latch on to any of the characters. So
when you look at the stats here too, and that, like, only 7,500 people playing on their was it their beta at its peak, 7,500. That's nothing. You consider the size of this industry, that's a drop in the bucket. There's indie games that get, triple, quadruple that end up maybe nobody ends up caring about in the end, that get way more. It almost seemed like there was something out for Lawbreakers from the beginning. Like, there's something that people just didn't identify with.
Which is too bad for Cliff. But thankfully, gamers had a lot of other stuff to play.
Well, I think Cliff will bounce back. He's not going anywhere. I kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean, obviously not a lot of people played Lawbreakers, me included. I was one of them. I mean, I didn't pick it up,
and I was one of them.
But I kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean, you say what you want about the Gears series. I mean, some people don't like Gears. They actually think that the gameplay of Gears 1 is actually not good. But I mean, for the most part, it was one of those games that's pretty universally acclaimed, and he is the mind behind that. I mean, so he's capable of creating great worlds, great games.
And I think that the price point, because wasn't it it was half price when it was released too, wasn't it? It was like a $30 game. So I think in some respects he was like, hey, you know, try my game. It's half price. You guys are gonna love it. But it just, I don't know. For me, I think a lot of it is timing. The timing was just, it was off. It was just off.
It just seems like such a cheap way out to go, oh, well, you know, the timing of its launch turned out to be unfortunate, specifically the blockbuster PC Online game, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. It's just like, you know, like don't try and scapegoat yourself, you know, like, I don't know. It just seems like a smarmy or chicken shit way out. Like maybe kind of own up to the fact that, you know, maybe you guys did some things wrong. Your ad campaign obviously didn't stand out. You know, well, you know, whatever the case might be, but just kind of throwing it out there and saying it's because of another game, is kind of cheap. But I mean, you know, we chatted about this on the last podcast when we were talking about how Titanfall 2 kind of fell victim to Battlefield 1, right? You know, you have two big shooters launching at the same time, and obviously it did. It suffered in sales, but did you see Respawn coming out and going, you know what, it's Battlefield's fault? Like, no, they're like, you know what? Obviously, we did some things wrong. We'll do better next time. And then they move on. They accept their loss and they accept it gracefully.
And they gracefully accepted EA's $400+ million.
Wouldn't you?
The money truck.
You know.
Morally, I'd like to say I wouldn't, but
you're a lying piece of shit.
I don't care whose $400 million it is at the end of the day.
If somebody's backing that money truck up to my garage, I'm like, I'm opening the garage and I'm taking it. Like, you just dump it all. Yeah. I've always wanted to, like, you know, like be the guy in one of them scenes where it's like I'm completely buck naked, just rolling in bills, you know, throwing bills in the air. You know, I would totally do that with EA's money. I don't care where it comes from. I'll roll in your money.
Just take a shower afterwards.
That's right. I mean,
yeah,
it's not
right. Money is dirty.
It's nothing some shampoo can't take care of. I'm good, man.
So 2017 was a pretty good year.
Yeah. Understatement
you
much?
Say.
Yeah, understatement.
What about 2018? Do we have a hope? Can we stand up to 2017? Video game wise, I mean?
It could be good, but can it match? Nah, no. Nope.
Oh, I don't know. There are some pretty rad games that are coming out.
Well, sure, there's rad games, but I mean, we also saw the launch of the Switch. I mean, that was a big part of the year, is that we were given this console that obviously is selling like crazy, you know, and two of our top 3 games of the year were on the Switch, you know. So I think the entering the market, you know, with the Switch was a big part of 2017 being so spectacular. But I just, like, even with, you know, the other platforms, all the games that came out, it was almost hard to keep track. It was hard to keep track of great game after great game, and I just don't see it coming. Right now, we know of a lot of games coming. There's not a lot of concrete dates. Some stuff is probably going to slip into 2019. Right? I mean, you know, sure. Is God of War going to launch in 2018? Do we know that for sure? You know, there's people
I think it's April, isn't it?
Well, that's what we think. But then there's rumors of like, oh, it's going to be delayed. Who knows, right? But it just seemed like there was just so much, and it was so good that I don't know if 2018 is going to hit that caliber, despite what we know is coming.
Well, I think well, we don't even know if Last of Us 2 will be out in 2018. There's a lot of
not a chance. Not
speculating.
A chance.
Oof, there's some theories out there that are like, you know, that are playing off of like Ellie's 19th birthday is this December, and that would line up perfectly with a winter release. And same thing with Ellie's mom. There's some theories about her as well, that it might be a 2018 release. So that would be great, and it would make for that much better of a year. But I mean, Spider-Man, will we see Spider-Man this year?
I think Spider-Man's a guarantee.
Guaranteed?
I think so. But I mean, you know, games now, I mean, there's all sorts of delays. Right? But I mean, what do we have on the way that's guaranteed for Xbox this year in terms of exclusives that we know of? Crackdown 3 should hit.
I mean, if it doesn't, they've got to cancel it, I think.
Well, if it doesn't, there's problems. There's something wrong.
Well, I think there's problems already. Like that, we want to talk about another game that's not generating a ton of hype. It's Crackdown 3, and Crackdown 3 should be amazing. But so far, what have we seen that's really impressed us?
Well, I mean, they made all sorts of promises when they first announced it, but that was 2 years ago, or even longer than that, wasn't it?
2015.
Yeah, 2015. Yeah, so there you go. Like, we're bordering on 3 years here, and we still don't have it in our hands. And I mean, and we've played it. I touched it at E3, and it seems fun, but it's still Crackdown. I mean, I don't know. I mean, not that I wouldn't enjoy playing it, but I'm not gonna. There's something that's telling me I'm not going to have my mind blown going, like when I played the first Crackdown, because it was so new. It's just it's another sequel in a long line of sequels from Microsoft. Like, I mean, I hate kind of playing this shit on Microsoft game, because I love the platform. I'm playing my One X more than anything else, right now, but I just want to see more out of them. And so you don't have a lot on the docket that we know of that is concrete in 2018 for Xbox. Obviously, Sony has a bit more. Days Gone is probably going to be dropping this year for sure.
And that looks terrific.
It does. It looks cool. So they've got a good Detroit Become Human is probably going to drop this year. Right. So we do have some really cool games on the way from Sony. But just in terms of those sheer numbers, what do we have confirmed for 2018 for the Switch? Confirmed, right? I mean, what do you guys know of?
Apparently that Yoshi game.
Which one?
That Yoshi game.
Okay. Anything else? Silence.
Wow. Nothing off the top of my head.
Mega Man 11?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know, that's looking pretty thin. But looking at the multi-platform stuff, there's tons. There's, Far Cry 5 and Red Dead 2, Monster Hunter, Anthem, Metro Exodus.
Anthem's not hitting in 2018. I'll put money on that. It's not hitting this year.
I'd be willing to bet it'll slip. It's currently slated as 2018, though.
It's slated with, we haven't seen anything since E3. And
it's a very ambitious title.
It's ambitious, but you also look at the style of game it is. I mean, there was already kind of there was that comparison to the Destiny format in a sense, and that they were gearing this thing up to follow very much in the footsteps of where they misstepped with Battlefront. And I think there's a little bit of going back to the drawing board on how they finance this game. I mean, it looks big. It looks, massive in its scope, and it's beautiful. So it's going to cost a lot of money to develop. And right now, EA is obviously on the shit list when it comes to micros and everything else. I think they're taking a step back and making sure that they don't fuck it up. And that's easily slipping to 2019. I'm feeling very confident in that one.
Yeah, according to COG's very own Alex Thomas, who did a Nintendo Switch most anticipated titles list. I mean, Yoshi and Kirby are the two sort of real standout exclusives that are coming out for the Switch this year. But like you said, there could be some stuff coming on the way this week from Nintendo Direct. So we could see some bombshells, and Nintendo's been known to do that, to drop these massive releases or these massive announcements during their Nintendo Direct. So stay tuned.
Well, it is early. I mean, it's pretty early. I mean, obviously we're a week into the new year.
Right.
We're throwing out some pretty strong speculation, but a lot of times you don't know about things until a little later on. There's been times where games drop at E3, when you hear about games for the first time at E3 and they're out before the end of the year. So to say that maybe we are being a little preemptive and saying whether 2018 will or won't stack up, but it's just, you're going to look back on 2017 with a lot of fondness of, game after game after game, and your wallet just crying like, no more. It's so many games. And I mean, our backlogs are shameful because of it. So it's a lot to live up to. But I mean, if this is a problem or this is something we're debating over, like, can it be as good? I mean, man, that's a good thing to have to debate. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to talk about a year where we had more given to us than we probably deserve, 2017 was one of those years.
Is there a particular title that you're looking forward to the most this year?
The most?
The most. If there's one game you had to pick that you're really looking forward to this year, what would it be?
For me personally, I really want to play Spider-Man. I mean, right. I want to see Insomniac. I want to see their act. Wow. Well, no. You know what? Detroit is probably, if I have to pick one, Detroit Become Human is the highest on my list. After playing the demo at E3, I hadn't had a situation. I mean, I think the demo took me about 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so. And I mean, it was classic David Cage experience in a sense, in that, heavy on the narrative. Things could have gone sideways in a hurry. And there were so many different ways that my one little scenario could have played out. Talking to other people who got their hands on that demo, they were like, oh, well, this happened to me. And, oh, well, no, that didn't happen. I had this experience and it was so intense. I mean, I actually, like, my palms were sweaty putting down the controller. So yeah, getting into that is something that I think, that's got to be my most anticipated.
What about you, Paul?
I mean, Detroit looks awesome, but my concern there is David Cage's history, because he's talked a big game and talked about these, human experiences forever and ever and ever. And Detroit looks like it's better in those regards, but it still remains to be seen for me whether that's going to carry over into a whole narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I mean, I was going to say that I'd like to see more games in 2018 that are more focused and less open world, because I don't have 100 hours to play a bunch of 100-hour games.
Yeah.
But for me, it's probably Red Dead 2. Because Rockstar is just so good at telling a story.
Right.
And
I mean, if I was to predict one game that we'd score 100 this year, you know what I mean? It'd be Red Dead 2. Like, if you're looking at the list of games that are coming out so far, if there's a game we'd probably give a perfect score, like, if I was to predict one we'd give a perfect score, it'd be Red Dead 2.
You know what? I'm probably the one with the unpopular opinion here, but I think there's a lot of grace given to Rockstar in that, like, it might score 100, but I mean, to me, it wouldn't be a 100 game. And it blows my mind how much people love the first one. I liked it, I guess. I mean, even with GTA, I mean, I like GTA, and I guess it's deserving of the high scores that it's gotten. But it just seems, I feel like there's so much grace kind of thrown their way, and there's just an expectation. And sometimes I wonder if that universal hive mind, like we've spoken about before, kind of follows it. It's just like, well, it's a Rockstar game, it's going to be amazing, and anything that happens to be wrong with it is completely glazed over because of that hive mind of, oh, it's perfect, it's going to be great.
Well, there is something to be said about that. They do seem to get a bit of a pass. Like, and let's face it, when Grand Theft 5 was released, there were a lot of glitches out of the gate. Yet they were kind of given a pass for that. They really were.
And I even gave them a pass. I mean, I reviewed that game, the 360, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 360. And I gave it a high score too. I mean, I had fun with it. But I mean, one of the greatest things about being able to do this is, you can look at your work over the years, and sometimes you go back and reflect. And I don't know, like, knowing what I know now and the way I've become a little bit more critical in the way that I do things, looking back on it, it's not a 100 game. It's not a 98 game. I mean, it's good, but it's like in the 80s for me, and I know,
fighting words.
I know, unpopular opinion. I mean,
what?
And I'll embrace that. I mean, I'll take that heat. Go ahead, send an email. I mean, cuss me out. That's fine. But I just I don't know. Red Dead just doesn't, I liked John Marston. I liked Red Dead 1, but I just didn't think it was as good as everybody else did. I'm not excited like everybody else is.
I mean, for me, I wasn't that stoked or thrilled with GTA 4 when it came out, and GTA 5 was good for the narrative, but I didn't feel like the world was that interesting. But Red Dead really, really did it for me. Just the setting and the whole Wild West I'm really curious to see how they bring that into this generation and what they can do with the open world. See if they're going to continue with doing kind of a GTA Online in the Wild West. I think pulling heists in the Wild West could be really cool with your friends. I think there's a lot of places they could go if they choose to.
Well, how long is it going to take for them to do Red Dead Heist, though? I mean, that you probably won't see that till 2020, knowing, Rockstar's timeline too, right?
That's true.
The base game will drop for sure, but then it'd be like, okay, we're going to add all these really kick-ass things, but it's going to be a while. And, that'll slip to 2019, if not later, right?
Mm.
Well, does anybody know the player base for GTA Online? Like, I want to say it's still going strong.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, when you look at the fact that people are still playing, various Black Ops games, or they've got their own servers going for some of the earlier Halo games. I mean, any game now. I mean, even older games are going to have a following. Oh, yeah, I hear tickety ticketies. So somebody's trying to look up some stats.
No, yeah, it's not me. I don't want to touch anything because my laptop's already fragile enough. Good God.
December 2017 peak players in GTA 5 on Steam was 170K.
That's still a lot of players.
That's a lot.
That's still a lot of people playing.
Right.
It's been consistently above 100,000 for the last year and a half.
Well, hey,
Cliffy would die to have that.
Compared to the 7,500 that Lawbreakers.
Right.
I mean, Cliffy's just like 170K, sons of bitches.
He's like, fuck you guys.
I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think for me, my most anticipated, and you touched on it earlier, Sean, Spider-Man. Like, I really want to see what Insomniac can do with a Spider. It feels like it's been forever since we've had a really good Spider-Man game. I mean, I think the last good Spider-Man I played was Web of Shadows on the Xbox 360. Like, that was the last, decent Spider-Man game. So I'm really curious to see what they can do here. I mean, I'm a little bit nervous about the web slinging mechanics. I mean, I really feel that in order to have a good Spider-Man game, the web slinging mechanics have to be tight, incredibly.
But I managed to get into a session with Insomniac at E3 and got to see the game in proper action with an actual controller, like not one of usually how we see at E3, like the very scripted. They show somebody holding a controller, but they're not actually doing anything.
Right.
I saw like an actual hands-on, and the web mechanics looked amazing. And some of the stuff that he would do, I mean, they're very cognizant of the character, especially things like the no kill. I mean, Spider-Man is literally, 30 odd floors up in high rise that's being built, and it's still in construction, and he's kicking guys off the side of the building. And as he's heading off to kick the shit out of some other guy on the other side of the building, he's throwing out a web to catch this guy before he falls to his death. Like they've embraced the character the way the character is supposed to be done. And it looks super fun to play. I mean,
it should be really good. And everything we've seen so far is just fantastic. Really.
But what's your take though on the QuickTime events? That looks to be a fair number of them. I mean, I know people hate them. People really, really hate QTEs, and I don't mind them. I don't know. I mean,
I'm not. I guess there's a time and place. I mean, as long as we're not inundated with the QuickTime events, I'm fine with them. But sometimes it can be a bit much. So.
Yeah, and we'll there were a couple scenes with in their E3 preview or E3 that showed some QuickTime stuff. So I think some people kind of put just a little bit of a bug in their ear. They're like, oh gosh, maybe it's not going to be as good as we hope. But man, I mean, Insomniac, they know their shit. I mean, they're a studio that kind of has a pedigree behind them. So I don't think it's going to be a fuck up. And I know that there's a lot of people who are hyped about this one.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. For me, I don't really mind QuickTime events as long as they're done right.
Right.
Because nothing's worse than having some climactic battle where you cheese your way to victory. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're hiding behind a box and the boss can't fit underneath the, crane or whatever, and you're just hitting them with webs. That's not fun. Whereas if you have this epic battle and you get them down to the right spot and then they do a well put together QuickTime event, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. I mean, I think that QuickTime events kind of get unjustly shit on. I mean, but maybe we are in that minority. I'm like you, Paul. I've always thought where I just don't mind them as long as they're done right. But there are people out there who just have a hatred. This they don't belong in games, period. Mm-hmm. And it's not a line that can be crossed for them.
I find that sometimes they can break up a cutscene. Like if they want to show us a 5-10 minute cutscene and they throw some QuickTime events, I don't mind. It's sort of, it just keeps your interest up a little bit much. But I'm with you. When it's done horribly, it's horrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm fully confident in Insomniac. I know that they can create great games. So for me, it's not going to throw me off at all. But I know that it's just one of those things. It's kind of been floating around. I've seen the chatter on Twitter and everything else where people are like, well, there are all those QuickTime events, and they're giving it the early write-off, which I think isn't fair.
Right. Here comes that hive mind.
Mm-hmm. But I honestly think it's going to escape it purely out of the fact that Spider-Man is such a cool character. And not only that, they're coming off of Homecoming, which was a great movie. Yeah. And Sony has that animated Spider-Man movie coming out, I think in the fall. I think it's coming out in November or something like that. It looks really, really, really cool. We get basically, a blockbuster sized animated movie with Miles Morales, Spider-Man. Actually, well, there's multiple Spider-Mans in this one. There's more than just, it's a world with more than one Spider-Man. So it looks to be a cool movie. So basically, there's a lot of hype around that character right now. So I think it's kind of set up to just not fail. It's the right time for that character to have a big game. So they'll need to screw up pretty bad for it to bomb.
Yeah, I agree. One game I'm surprised we're not talking about at all coming out this year is Metro Exodus.
That game looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks incredible, but nobody's really sort of jazzed about it. But everything I've seen, it looks slick.
It does. I mean, and obviously 2033 Metro 2033 is a really, really cool game. And I mean, from what we've seen, we've only seen just the tiniest snippet, but man, does it look good. It looks so sharp and so crystal. So that's one you just kind of, maybe the hype's not there because we just don't know enough yet.
Maybe we just haven't seen enough but the trailers we saw, and I can't remember if it was at E3 or PSX or wherever the hell we saw it last, but it was, just some of the enemies and the environments and the scenes from I think it looked like it was Moscow. Looked incredible and just underneath the metro. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing more from that game. And it's kind of one that's, it's on my radar.
It should be.
For me, Metro is the gold standard for post-apocalyptic worlds. And, sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Well, I was just saying, it just seems so funny to me, to get your hands on an original. I mean, obviously it's been re-released and updated, but to get your hands on an original copy of Metro is actually really hard because it was one of those games that slipped under the radar. Not a lot of people bought it, and it turned into this cult classic type thing where people are like, wow, you didn't play this game. You need to play this game. And obviously 2033 sold better, but maybe, I mean, is the audience, we're fans of it, but is the audience a little smaller than we think? Is that maybe where that's why there's no hype? Because no one's really talking about it. I mean, when a game's going to blow up, when a game is announced and it's just, if you load up Twitter, you load up your Facebook and whatever social feed you use or whatnot, if once you get through all the toxic bullshit, you're like, oh, people are talking about this game a lot. What games are going to really blow up. And this one just kind of, there's been literally zero chatter.
I know.
I think the push is still
We're talking
coming.
about it.
Yeah, I think the push is still coming though, right?
What's that? I think we will see more. We will.
Oh yeah, and I think that's maybe why the hype is a little bit restrained, is that we've really seen a very minimal amount of what's coming. I mean, wait till they drop the proper gameplay trailers and everything else. People are going to wake up to that one. It's got was it 4A Studios that does that one, I believe. I'm not interneting at the moment. I'm not interneting.
I would have to look at it.
It's 4A.
I would have to internet it.
Yeah, you're interneting. Metro. You could probably hear the tickety of the mechanical keyboard.
I do know they've been working on it for a long time. I do know that.
Well, yeah, 4A Games is the developer. Deep Silver is the publisher. Yeah, excited. You know, I mean, obviously it's a studio that's got some meat behind it. They actually did a really cool VR game that I played that actually was like mind blowing in graphics quality. Arctica 1, which was really, really cool. So, I mean, I'm excited for it, but I'm tempered probably the same way as everybody else is, because we just haven't seen enough. We need to see a little bit more before I'm going to like start, jumping through hoops.
So what are you going to do in the meantime while we're waiting for all these games to get announced and shown off? Tell me about your pile of shame, Sean.
I'm dreading this.
The dreaded pile of shame.
I was dreading talking about this because, obviously we had our layout. We're like, okay, what are we going to talk about on the pile of shame? And there's been a recent update to this game with the Xbox One X to turn it into the enhanced edition. And the fact that I have not played this game through, you're both going to be like, are you shitting me, Sean? I'm literally restarting The Witcher 3 because the furthest I've gotten it is maybe about 10 to 15 hours.
Shame.
I'm so disappointed.
Shame. Dong dong. Shame. Dong dong. I know. It's just because it's like, it is obviously, it's one of those games where everyone is, it's universally acclaimed. It's a great game. And I don't know if it's just that little bit of shine that it's gotten from the Xbox One X enhanced version. I feel a little bit more invested right now than I did before. And I'm excited to get back into it. And now I kind of, because of that, like I said, just that little extra shine, I feel like I'm finally at that point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to play this one through. Maybe it was just a victim of I didn't have the time to play it at when it released. I just didn't have time to sink 100 hours into a game. But that's the top of my pile of shame. A game that's 2 years old, 3 years old. How old is it?
Yeah, it was a 2015.
God, that's embarrassing.
There's no
video game, bro.
There's no shame in going back to that, especially like you've got the perfect excuse. You've got the 4K TV. You've got the Xbox One X. Like, it's a great excuse to go to play that game, even if it is the first time. So
you know what though?
There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that, buddy.
It's
no shame.
Really the one the enhanced.
Yeah, how does it look?
It looks so good. I mean, you're just getting that little bit more out of the characters. For example, I have a real big problem with the uncanny valley. When characters look too robotic, I have a hard time getting immersed. And I don't know if that was something that held me back, but I remember just kind of looking at it going, it just doesn't look right. But now it looks so good. Those characters look so believable and so real. Even in that opening stretch there where where Geralt is dreaming, but with training with Ciri and stuff like that. I'm like, every character looks so good and so brought into that world that I immediately in that first hour of play got fully pulled back in. So I feel like now's the time. I have a little bit more spare time these days where I can actually sink into it. And I'm going to go through the full playthrough.
Till at least you get to the sex on a unicorn spot. At least you got to play till at least there.
Well, I might pause there for some private time, but then I'll go right back. But enough about my pile of shame, because I want to hear of your piles. Tell me of your piles,
Paul. You go, Paul.
Yeah, Trev, you already talked about Origins a bit, and
I did.
Sean, given how much you love Origins, I think you're really going to enjoy The Witcher.
Well, that's good, yeah, because I remember you'd mentioned to me too. Deep enough into it, in that the side quests have some import to them. You know, you care. And Geralt is a strong character in that his interactions with these NPCs and everything else is something that you're going to take interest in. So I took your recommendation to heart, and I said, okay, well, I need to sink in that time to get past that 10-hour mark where, I mean, it's a big game, right? And some people go, oh, if it doesn't pull you in within the first couple hours, but need a little bit more. And maybe that's what it was with me, but I'm excited to get back into it.
Yeah. Well, the first one that's coming off my pile of shame is a game from Supergiant called Pyre. That's the guys that made Bastion and Transistor. And Pyre is possibly one of the nicest looking games I've seen in a long time. Was nominated for our Prettiest Pony this year, I believe. But I mean, it's a narrative about it's kind of like a heaven and hell analog where people are being banished to a foreign land, and to get out of that foreign land, you got to play space basketball.
What?
Yeah, that's right. That's basically what it is. It's space basketball, and I mean, I fired it up and screwed around with it a little bit when it came out, but just didn't have the time to dig in, and that's the one that's coming off my pile first.
I just
a nice
when Lydia reviewed that, she gave it an 85. She quite enjoyed it.
I mean, it looks incredible. Supergiant's art is probably among the best in the industry. Just the characters and the environments are gorgeous.
And you know, it's funny. I was listening to was it the Giant Bomb Beastcast, or I think it was the Bombcast about some of their games of the year categories, and they were really fighting. There were a few people really fighting for Pyre to be thrown above Horizon, thrown above Cuphead for style.
Wow.
I think it was their style. I mean, ultimately, Cuphead took their award for best looking game. I think is what it was, not style, best looking game. But Pyre, I mean, I don't know if either of you listened to the Bombcast, but their game of the year is laborious and long and a borderline hard to listen to because each cast is like 5 hours fucking long for four categories or whatever. And but listening to them at one point, I'm like, look, you guys, I almost got to the point where I'm like, you just need to pick a goddamn game. But they really campaigned for it though. Like there was some serious campaigning. Ultimately, it did fall short, but it was really high in that in the conversation. I mean, it's a game that not only looks good though. I mean, they kept arguing about how great it was to play as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, who doesn't love space basketball?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to think of how to describe that, and that's the best thing I could come up with. I mean, there's hoops, there's balls, and there's what about dudes and dudettes on a court.
What about basketball? Anybody remember basketball? They're playing.
No.
I've tried really, really hard to forget basketball.
No. All right, man. It's not necessarily a shining moment in their career, the South Park boys. Some people love it though. It's a cult classic. I think it's one of those ones that like some people just absolutely love to death. I'm not one of them.
Cult is right.
Yeah. Weirdos.
So speaking of weirdos, if any of our weirdos listening want to get in touch with us, you can do so at our brand new email address, which is pressxpodcast@gmail.com.
We have an email?
We have an email.
Oh, gosh, I feel important. We're really doing this, guys.
So please email us.
Yeah, sure. Ask us questions. Tell us how much we suck. No, don't tell us that. Don't tell us that.
I mean, if you really feel that way, go for it. But
maybe people would like to yell at me about my opinion of Star and Red Dead. I have a feeling that I probably have pissed off our few listeners of the moment. And be like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to this goddamn podcast. That Sean guy's an idiot.
Hell, I might email in about that.
You prick.
Well, that brings us to the close.
Right, and make sure they be sure to follow us on COGconnected.com, on Twitter, COGconnected, Facebook, COGconnected, everywhere, COGconnected.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Right.
You know what I love? I love that we can count on you, Trevor, to be the company man to tell everybody where to click at the end of every episode.
Of course. Of course.
As long as you stop telling people to download but don't listen.
Yeah. Well, we just want the stats.
That's horrible advice.
I mean, if anybody heard that from the last episode, they actually got to the end of the episode, so I don't think we can complain too much.
Right.
There you go. So that's true. So maybe we're doing something right if they actually heard that.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. This has been episode 1 of Press X to Podcast with your friends from COGconnected, and we will see you next week for what I'm presuming is episode 2.
Well, in chronological order, yes, it will be episode 2.
I don't know. I thought we might go for a 1.1 or something like that, but
no. I think we're going to keep it simple.
Simple. I like it.
Simple. Well, hopefully you guys join us.
Did you have more to say there?
No, I just really hope that people join us. Is there anything more to say? Or did I end abruptly? I must have ended abruptly.
You did. You just kind of cut off, and I was like, and?
And bring cookies? I don't know.
Send cookies to the email address, and
sure.
And we'll see you right back here, same time, same place next week. Peace out, everybody.
Peace out.